Louder.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of Fantasy Football Dynasty. Jerel and I are back at you again with our Week 5 DFS value plays that we really like this week. We have put a good bit of time into these ones, and I'm feeling good about them, Jerel. I don't know about you. I'm sure you probably are, but we will kind of dissect all of our favorite value plays that we're liking. We're going based off of DraftKings prices again. That's where we've kind of stayed, so that's where we'll continue to go. And we're going to just go ahead and jump right in, guys. So the first guy we actually agree on. Again, we had a lot of agreeances last week. I see quite a few in our lineups this week. And we're going to talk about Kirk Cousins. Jerel, why don't you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, I like Kirk Cousins this week. I talked about him in my waiver show earlier this week. 5,900 at Seattle. Again, Seattle's defense, against Seattle's defense, no QBs attempted less than 44 pass attempts, and none of them have averaged less than 7 yards per pass attempt, which equals over 300 yards passing. And Cousins' average depth of target is 11.0, which is actually the highest amongst QBs that have started more than one game.
Yeah.
So, that defense, again, Seattle defense, they'll be without Jamal Adams, so I really like that matchup this week.
Yeah, and I like Cousins a lot too. Again, 5,900 at Seattle. He is 5th in passing yards per attempt and 1st among starting quarterbacks in passing yards per completion. So as you mentioned, that Seattle defense, we talked about it last week with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Devontae Parker. Gotta have these guys against that Seattle defense. They're starting to turn into Atlanta for us, I feel like. And
as bad as Atlanta's been, Seattle, like I said earlier this week in my waiver show, is the only defense that's given up 400 yards of total offense in every single game so far this year.
Yeah, so that's even more reason you got to start Kirk Cousins. So I'm rolling him out there. Who you got next, Jerel?
Yeah, at the same price point as Kirk Cousins, I actually like Teddy Bridgewater a little better than Kirk Cousins. Again, another guy I talked about on the waiver wire show if you're streaming quarterbacks. So hopefully I'm not repeating stuff here, but Teddy Bridgewater at Atlanta. The Atlanta defense, they've given up 32.5 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, while no other team has given up more than 26.8. So there's a decent gap there. Atlanta defense, 72.5 completion percentage, 8.47 yards per attempt, and a 7.8 touchdown rate, all worst in the NFL. Need we say more? We've been saying this, every week, I feel like. Fire up all of your offensive players against Atlanta.
Play your players against the Atlanta Falcons. Completely agree. Bridgewater I like here as well. And we'll get into a little bit more on them later. The next guy that I like here is Justin Herbert. Anthony Lynn decided he's going to start him moving forward, so I'm going to fire him up this week against the Saints. The Saints have given up 3 touchdowns a week to quarterbacks. Brady had 1 on the ground, and everybody else has thrown for 3. Herbert has had at least 290 yards and a touchdown in each of his games, and threw for 3 last week against a pretty stout Bucs defense. At $6,000 against the Saints, I'm starting Justin Herbert in a few lineups this week. Moving on to our running backs, I actually see a teammate of one of your quarterbacks here, Jerel. Tell us about him.
I think you're talking about Mike Davis. I think we both have this guy listed. 6,400, again, Carolina Panthers at Atlanta. Fire him up, but give Mike Davis some credit. The only running backs this season that have seen 10 targets and averaged over 3 yards per route run, Alvin Kamara, James Robinson, and Mike Davis. So he's in really good company there. Again, talking about this Atlanta defense, they've allowed 77.7 PPR points to running backs through the air, just through the air, which is the most in the league. And Davis has seen 23 targets over the last 3 weeks. So,
yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, you look at what Atlanta's given up to running backs this year so far. 2 total touchdowns through the air to Chris Carson, 28 touches, 122 yards, and a touchdown to Zeke. Week 3, they had a pretty good game against the running back there. But last week against Green Bay, you have Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones for 20 total touches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. The Falcons aren't just giving up big plays to the wide receivers. The running backs are playing really well against them as well. Mike Davis has been running back 4 over the past 2 weeks, and I'm rolling him out there again. 21 touches over the past 2 weeks, 42 total. I'm rolling out Mike Davis. And I'm actually seeing the guy on the opposite side of the ball on your list, Jerel.
yeah, I actually like Todd Gurley in that matchup as well as a value play if you don't go Mike Davis. 5,700 against that Carolina defense. I'll be honest, as a Falcons fan, I was really excited to have Gurley come in, but he hasn't looked explosive, and I'll be the first to say that. But he has scored 4 touchdowns through 4 weeks, so he's averaging 1 a week. Carolina defense is one of only 4 teams in the NFL that's allowed more fantasy points to running backs than wide receivers. So as long as Todd Gurley can hit pay dirt again, I think he's a good value play.
Yeah, without a doubt. You keep on an average of 1 a week, and I think you're going to be pretty solid. I like Gurley as well. Again, if he hits the end zone, I think that's a really good value there. Guys, got another Charger for you guys. Got Joshua Kelly, 5,600 at New Orleans. Through the first 3 weeks, he had 47 touches to Austin Eckler's 63. With Eckler now out, placed on injured reserve with that hamstring issue, I am actually taking Joshua Kelly as the next man up, and I'm not necessarily looking back on that one. So I like Joshua Kelly a lot this week.
Yeah, you're not worried about the Justin Jackson split?
I'm worried about it a little bit, yes, but Kelly has had just under 4 red zone touches per game. And Eckler is vacating about that as well. So I like him to continue that red zone work and even that goal line work. So I do like Kelly better than I like Jackson.
I'm definitely not calling for a Jackson play. Not at all. Joshua Kelly is definitely the back to own in that backfield. Not calling for Justin Jackson at all. Just wondering if, as a Charger fan, like knowing that has been a split backfield ever since, Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, if it's going to take away from Kelly's value. And, yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit, but I don't think Jackson's going to take as much away from Kelly as Kelly did from Eckler. So I'm taking that first
That's fair. That's fair. And then just like Gurley, you're probably banking on a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh, yeah. And
my other running back value this week is also another rookie, Antonio Gibson for the Washington football team. $5,000, kind of fishy price point there, that low against the LA Rams. Not an amazing matchup, but the LA Rams defense has allowed 3 top 16 running backs in the 4 weeks, and the 1 week that they didn't allow a top 16 running back was against the Giants, and Devontae Freeman still had double digits. So there's a decent floor there with Antonio Gibson. You can kind of see they're getting him involved in the offense a lot more, and they actually named Kyle Allen as the starting QB, which I think actually could benefit Gibson quite a bit. Kyle Allen last year with the Carolina Panthers targeted Christian McCaffrey over 140 times last season. And Cody, who has Antonio Gibson been compared to by head coach Ron Rivera?
Man, Ron Rivera's former running back, Christian McCaffrey.
So I like that, especially if Ron Rivera is going to use Antonio Gibson like Christian McCaffrey, and you have Christian McCaffrey's old quarterback dump it down to him.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. I like Kyle Allen to be dumping it down, and that's a pretty good play in my mind this week at $5,000. Next, we're going to jump on into our wide receivers. Jerel, I see one of 2 guys that you like for a stack with one of your quarterbacks.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot more last week, but I mean, stacking has become, stacking your quarterbacks and receivers and even tight ends has become pretty prevalent when it comes to DFS. So I got to start out with the Carolina Panthers against the Atlanta Falcons. And you got two options here. You got DJ Moore at $6,000 and Robbie Anderson, $100 less at $5,900. Atlanta defense, again, to harp on them, they lost DeMonte Casey. He suffered a torn Achilles last week against Green Bay. He was placed on IR this week. And again, harping on that terrible Atlanta defense, they've allowed 21 pass plays to go 20-plus yards, which is the most in the NFL. So, again, DJ Moore or Robbie Anderson, I think both could be good plays. Probably not starting both. You got to pick one. Moore leads the team in air yard percentage with 42.7, but or compared to Robbie Anderson's 35.4%. But Robbie Anderson ranks third in the NFL in yards per route run. So Robbie Anderson has been a nice surprise this season, but I do still think DJ Moore is the number one there. So picking between the two, I think you lean towards Robbie Anderson. I believe you're doing that with the cheaper option and better numbers this year.
Yep, I certainly am. I'm taking the slightly cheaper option and the better numbers. Exactly as you just said. I'm rolling out Robbie Anderson, which you guys will see in my lineup a little later on. Another guy we agree on is Justin Jefferson. I'm taking another stack that we like this week, 5,500 at Seattle. Jefferson's 14 targets over the past two games, which is second on the team to only Thielen, and only by one target. Over the past two games, he's had at least 100 yards and scored a touchdown in one of them. And Seattle just keeps giving up those 100-yard games. They've added another one from last week, as you mentioned the week before. So I'm jumping on Justin Jefferson this week at that price point of 5,500, and I like that this week. Who else you got?
Yeah, Justin Jefferson. Yeah, like you said, I'm with you on Justin Jefferson at Seattle. I said Anderson ranks third in the NFL on yards per route run. Justin Jefferson's actually number one in that category with 3.7 yards per route run. So he's being very efficient in the routes that he does run. And Seattle's defense has given up 336.3 yards per game to wide receivers alone. And they've given up nearly 60 more fantasy points to wide receivers than the next worst team. So, yes, Justin Jefferson is the number two option to Adam Thielen, but that Seattle defense has allowed 10 receivers already this season to have at least 65 receiving yards. So I think Justin Jefferson has a safe floor going into this matchup.
And who do you have next here on your receiver list, man?
Are you talking about Zacchaeus?
Yeah.
Yeah, my next one, again, this is a big contingency play, but it's Olamide. I'm going to butcher his name. That's probably why you made me go first. But Olamide Zacchaeus for my Atlanta Falcons, only $3,000 against Carolina. And my play, obviously, is kind of contingent on Julio being ruled out. He's officially ruled as questionable going into this game. But as we even saw last week, he might play a little bit and not be seen in the second half. So with Julio being out in that second half versus Green Bay, Zacchaeus stepped in and led the Falcons with 9 targets, 8 receptions, and 86 receiving yards. And so if we see Zacchaeus being in any sort of role this week at that price, that's pretty much free in DFS. So
yeah, by taking that price point, you're saving money to get 2 or 3 top guys with your lineups. I see Zacchaeus as being a huge value this week. I completely agree if Julio's out.
Yeah, I think the only other name that I have listed here is Tim Patrick for the Denver Broncos, 4,400 at New England. I don't love the matchup necessarily, but New England will be without Stephon Gilmore, which works in Tim Patrick's favor, and Noah Fant, the tight end, has been ruled out for week 5. So, again, another thing working in Tim Patrick's favor there. One good thing for the matchup, New England defense has given up 7 touchdowns to wide receivers, which is the 3rd most in the NFL.
Yeah, something you probably wouldn't have expected after the year they had last year. But I agree, Stephon Gilmore being out, I think really kind of boosts that value for him. Noah Fant being out as well. So I like all the points you made there. Kind of swaying me towards maybe starting Patrick this week, man. Next up, we're going to go to our tight ends here. I'll start off with Mo Alley Cox, actually, 4,200 at Cleveland. Cleveland's given up the fourth most fantasy points per game to tight ends. And, man, when I'm looking at my tight ends and I'm looking at guys at this low of a price point, I'm looking for touchdowns. Mo Alley Cox has had one in each of the last 2 weeks. So I'm rolling out Mo Alley Cox potentially this week. I like his value there.
Yeah, I mean, and as a Charger fan, you know that Phillip Rivers loves his tight ends. So can't go wrong picking a tight end that Phillip Rivers is throwing to. I think my one favorite value play this week is Evan Ingram. And obviously that's not based on what he's done this season. But Evan Ingram, 4,600 at Dallas. He hasn't been the top 6-7 tight end that even you, Cody, yourself were kind of calling for. But, I mean, he's still third in the league in targets. I'm reading a tweet right now by Adam Levitan. And just like, Danny Dimes has had a rough going this season, it's the defenses they've faced have been brutal. Pittsburgh, Chicago, San Francisco, and the LA Rams. So schedule's looking up. But even in those games, Evan Ingram's usage has been good. 90% of snaps, he's lined up in the slot or wide in over half of those snaps, and he has the team-leading 20.1% target share. So he's getting plenty of opportunity, and if there's ever a time to break out, it's against this Alice Cowboys defense.
Yeah, I'm hoping for it, man. He's making me look bad so far this year. I had him, I think, as my number 5 tight end going into this year.
Most people did.
Yeah.
I mean, people see the talent, and it's there. Hopefully, this matchup finally works in his favor. Dallas's defense has allowed at least seven fantasy points per tight end every game so far this season, with 3 of them scoring over 11. So
maybe 4 coming this week. Man, the last guy I'm wanting to talk about here for me is my boy Hunter Henry. I'm coming at you guys with some Chargers.
I better see a Charger stack in some of these lineups.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll share some of them with you a little later on. But, yeah, I've got Hunter Henry here, 4,100 at New Orleans. New Orleans defense has been even worse than Cleveland's defense in fantasy points per game to tight ends, giving up the second most. Second only to Jerel. You know who the first is? The Atlanta Falcons. Got to start those guys as well.
Darren Waller helped that New Orleans defense.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm calling for a bounce back after facing, again, a stout Bucs defense from last week. So I'm looking for Hunter Henry, and, man, I hope so as a Chargers fan. But I think Hunter Henry's got really good value at 4,100 at New Orleans. So I've got him in a couple lineups this week.
We need receipts.
You'll get them.
Yeah, I think the only other tight end I had listed, which was Jonnu Smith at 4,900, but that game's off the main slate, so we don't really need to talk about it. Let's just hope that game actually gets played.
Man, I hope so. Fantasy leagues everywhere are scrambling at this point, so I mean.
Oh man, it's not even just Titans owners at this point. It's Josh Allen owners would riot if they. Yes, got a win would be nice, but 0 fantasy points.
Past that, though, I just hope for a speedy recovery, obviously, for everyone that's got COVID within that organization, and hopefully things will just settle down and we can get back to playing football as normal. Man, I liked this segment last week. I wanted to bring it to you guys again. I am actually getting you guys a lineup that I've created this week, and I think Jerel is going to do the same after I get done with mine.
Yeah, these are for cash games, right?
Yes, these are cash lineups that we're doing this week. I am actually going with Kirk Cousins at my quarterback. I've got Mike Davis there as the running back. Todd Gurley as the second running back. We're going with Robbie Anderson, as we mentioned a little earlier. I like the slightly cheaper option there. Got my stack with Justin Jefferson going with Kirk Cousins. And I actually took the opposite side of the stack as well, as I talked about last week with DK Metcalf.
Yeah, that's a big thing too, not just the stacking, but the playback.
Yeah, exactly. Go for that. What you hope to see is a higher scoring game, and pick the opposite receiver as well. I did start Hunter Henry, and I realized I misspoke earlier. He's actually 4,300 as opposed to 4,100. Still like him though, 4,300 there. I am starting Kenyon Drake. I think that was more of a product of what was still left for my flex and what was available around him. So hoping for a bounce-back game and a breakout against the Jets.
I've been calling for a Drake breakout for 2 weeks straight. So
hoping for it. And then I'm starting the Chiefs defense at home against the Raiders.
Nice. Yeah, good luck to you there. I'll give you guys my cash lineup as it stands right now. Could go Kirk Cousins, but I'll go Teddy Bridgewater here at Carolina. And then with the Carolina stack, I'm sticking with the Mike Davis running back and Robbie Anderson, like Cody. My other running back is going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the Chiefs. I like that matchup against the Raiders. And his teammate, Tyreek Hill, I'm actually able to play because I'm actually going to get, at this point, have Zacchaeus at 3,000, so I'm saving a lot of money there. Tight end, Evan Ingram, and that allows my flex to be Ezekiel Elliott and the Browns defense. So
I might have to borrow a lineup this week, man. That's a really good, especially if
we're in a competition between each other. But hey, if it makes you some money, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll play that outside of our competition. You and I have to keep our thing going each week, but I might be playing it in some lineups. Especially, I love the value that you get and seeing what you can actually do with a $3,000 player.
Yeah, again, as of right now, I'm still iffy on if Julio is going to play. If Julio's a full go, I could get a goose egg there and it ruin everything. But at that price, I mean, I think Julio, even in a limited capacity, Zacchaeus could surpass his value there.
Yeah, I like it. So these lineups, we're going to start bringing to you guys every week. I've really enjoyed the segment. Last week I didn't do as well as I may have hoped. I scored 167 points, but didn't quite get any money. I ended up having to submit a last-minute Monday night lineup to just break even last week. So looking for a little bit of a different outcome this week so I don't have to scramble. But that's going to do it for the DFS show, guys. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your lineups are. We want to see what you guys have come up with on Facebook, on Twitter. Just let us know. And you can find us.
Yeah, I mean, for DFS guys, I'd probably shouted them out plenty on our regular shows, but I follow Rob Norton on Twitter at Norton0723. He comes out with a weekly DFS article. Definitely go ahead and check that out. And he has other stuff too for year-long fantasy as well. So I love following Rob and interacting with him on Twitter. Yeah,
and a page that I wanted to shout out, I actually just joined recently on Facebook, DraftKings and FanDuel DFS lineup advice. So over the past couple of days, I've kind of looked at it. I've been engaged in some conversation. They're not just NFL either, guys. They're MLB, they're NBA, and I've enjoyed being part of that page and looking forward to seeing what some of the people come with there and being active on the page. Other than that, you can find us on Facebook at Fantasy Football Dynasty. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at FF Dynasty 1. Jerel is on Twitter at Jerel FF Dynasty 1, and I'm on Twitter at Cody FF Dynasty 1. As always, you can also find Casey at FF_Casey. And Jason at Unsportsman Big J, our producer. Guys, again, let us know what you think. Let us know those lineups, and we look forward to hearing from you guys. Jerel, had a good one, man. See you next week.
Good luck this week, man.
And same to you, man. Appreciate it.